This is Nehanda Radio, giving you the best online entertainment and updated news and information from within Zimbabwe. Nehanda Radio, entertainment, news and information coming straight out of Zimbabwe.
And I think today's issue, will touch more on my role as a parliamentarian. First of all, I would like to respond to the release by the Herald in terms of the headline that I was involved in a scandal. There's a scandal. First of all, I did not know that a business transaction where you are a shareholder constitutes to a scandal. It's the first I've heard that a proper business transaction constitutes a scandal. Yes, I was involved in business before I was a member of parliament, and it was out of my business aspirations that I did enter into arrangements with Billy. Let me make it known that I'm not a businessman who believes in things black and white. I am a businessman who believes in a handshake. For me, the handshake is key because the key to that handshake is that God is the witness of that handshake. I'm a believer in God. So I've always said what we agree and what a man says, he must honor. Whether you think sign the paper or not, if it's not an honorable man, it will still not fly. So it's quite important that you also understand the way I go about my business dealings. But it seems as if the thing Herald seems to have shifted this attention, and probably talking about Billy is probably a shift to try and get me to be quiet on some of the issues that I've brought up in Parliament and so forth. I'm very determined as a member of Parliament in my role on oversight to ensure that the country's resources are, at the end of the day, whoever is involved has got to account to the country's resources, because the Zim asset agenda, which the Herald has spoken about, cannot happen without us dealing with the issue of corruption at the end of the day. Billy Rothenberg was given a mining concession, 30% of Anglo-American in Unki. It was under the name Todo. He was to mine it. He never mined it, he speculated on it. That is also a question that I'll bring before the Minister of Mines in terms of what government policy is there in people who speculate on concessions. So the money was never remitted in the country. We don't know what thing happened to the money. So the Herald can probably assist in also asking Billy Rothenberg that the total concession given to him for free by the Zimbabwe government, what happened to it? As far as I know, it's under another company. He's no longer a shareholder. It's under foreign companies. That is tantamount to think fraud. And I'm hoping that the law enforcement agents will also move in trying to ensure that we deal with corruption. The reason why I zero in on this, Zim asset cannot happen if our resources are not accounted for at the end of the day. Who is Billy Rothenberg? It seems we have all forgotten who Billy Rothenberg is. He fled South Africa, then investigating the Directorate for Serious Economic Offences launched a raid on Wheels of Africa in 1999. He was sought in connection with fraud relating to manipulation of import tariffs and the siphoning of company cash to himself and other fictitious invoices. He established a mafia operation with John Brindekemp and used our soldiers, our Zimbabwean soldiers in the DRC, who never got anything in return. He was stopped from entering the DRC and was implicated in the death of the Hyundai owner. In 2000, the DRC withdrew Rothenberg's mining concessions, reportedly after he failed to pay over the state's shares of the profit. In trouble with the authorities, he was deported in 2007. He's not welcome to any of these three countries, DRC, South Africa, and Botswana, and now uses Zimbabwe and is believed to be untouchable. He was PI in DRC and asked help from this government He has never used any of resources to generate any business. Let us ask, how much money has he put into Zimbabwe? It's about time that the journalist did the question. The amount of money that Billy Rottenberg has invested in Zimbabwe. We all are keen to see the country taking off. We are keen to see investors bringing in their money, not investors who use the country's resources on things, speculation, then sell, then go and set up a plant in Chisumbanje. Can you account for the transaction? Can you see the paper trail of where the money came from offshore? So I think it's also important that the very same paper also does move into understanding how much money has Billy invested in Zimbabwe. Or it is a question of the Zimbabwe resources that he speculates on and uses that money to then say he has money. That's something that we need to understand at the end of the day. Billy owns a company called Subbot. He's no longer in control of it anymore. The thing tracking company is in the hands of the foreigners as well. He grew up on a farm in Karoi where he beat up blacks, and he was known for having done that. His name Naro emanates from the fact that ane Naro and his car is number plate Naro. So you must understand Naro for what. So we will not be swayed in a thing white man. We have asked the ministers who are black to account. What about a white man? And suddenly the thing state-owned media takes a position on a white person. Quite shocking indeed. How does Zimasit grow? So I thought it would be pretty clear. Of late he owns Zinwa 7 million US. So how is the economy going to take off? He's making cash every day from the mandatory fuel, but he cannot pay the government. How much money has he put into the fiscus with all the resources he has been given? That is the question we must ask. How much is he contributing to the fiscus of this country? He's gotten Nwanetsi Ranch, which is there. He's got 2,000 square kilometers in Chiwore. He's got Chisumbanje over 30,000 hectares. As far as I'm concerned, he is the single largest landowner in this country, and he's white. I thought our position was to take land from the whites and give it to the blacks. So where have we shifted in terms of policy as a government? That's our role as oversight. In terms of the transactions which were there, it was made, they were done above board. At no point did I go to him. He was introduced to me. He looked for me, and he saw the energy in me. He saw the proactivity in me, and he decided to hire me as a consultant. I never went to him. He brought his entire management to my offices, Eastgate, so that I could meet them and introduce me as a consultant at the end of the day. Why then would he claim that I extorted him when he used his own helicopter to land on my farm? Would you really land on a person who's an extortionist with your helicopter? All the way from Harare, you then land on my farm. So it's very clear for us to also understand some of the transactions which are there. Yes, it's normal business practice to demand a share of the cake if you're involved. There is nothing amiss about that. It has never been amiss. And since 2011, September, when we then withdrew, we withdrew the transactions on the basis that the Minister of Presidential Affairs and State Security, now Honorable Mtasa, came to me and said Billy had approached him for us to settle this out of court. The onus is for you to go and ask the Honorable Minister, did Billy ask him to settle this out of court? Because he's an honorable member of parliament, and he so happens to be my uncle. I trusted that. Would you not trust your uncle? I then trusted my uncle. I decided that the matter must be settled out of court because he had gone and asked him to do that. Bezo Nyabadza was there. I am the one who took Billy to Ada. Bezo Nyabadza never knew Billy. Why was I in a flight from Harare to think Ada? Certainly I was not a flight attendant on that flight. I mean, it is a helicopter. A helicopter doesn't need a flight attendant. So what was I doing? You can go and check the records at the airport. Who left on that flight? So it would be good for him to answer, what was I doing on that flight? Yes, as a director, I had allowances that were given to me. And yes, I don't come cheap. Sorry, I don't come cheap. I'm not one of those who's satisfied about being given an envelope, a brown envelope, and I go. I want a stake in the business, especially if it is a thing lucrative business. I approached the government, and Honorable Savan was the chairman of Wange. We wanted to do business with Wange. What is wrong with approaching a chairman of a company? It was then left to the CEO, Fred Moyo, to deal with it. Again, that transaction did not come out the way it was supposed to come out. He had promised the government, and look into the agreement on that transaction. The Herald must get a copy from him. Now that they have a very good relationship with him, can they tell the country what that transaction was about? I'll tell you what it was about. He went to the government and pledged and promised the government that he would increase power generation. He would increase power generation by supplying coking coal to the thermal power station. At that point in time, there was never any power generation improvement in the country. As a result, he exported coking coal out of the country. So we need now the figures from the Herald. How much of the coking coal he was mining went to the thermal power station, and how much of it was exported? Let's deal with facts. So here's for something for the Herald to also look into. Now that they have information, they can ask the Minister of Mines for that agreement. He never honored that. Secondly, there was the aspect of Chisumba and where Bezo Nyabadza is involved. Unfortunately, Bezo has become an Uncle Tom. On the Sabe Coco Conservancy, he was busy fronting whites. Where there are whites involved, he's there. He has no spine. He resigned as a provincial chairman of ZANU-PF to pursue the interests of whites in this country. Because ZANU-PF would certainly compromise. He's sort of Uncle Tom, a nice guy amongst the whites. Sabe Conservancy, he was in the forefront. Read. You are journalists. Why don't you look into it? He was in the forefront of defending whites again. Today he's in the forefront of defending whites again. We are beyond a situation where we think whites must be superior to think blacks. It's against the government policy. It's against what we are advocating for at the end of the day. It's about compliance. I'm a member of parliament, and it so happens that I know more about that transaction. So knowledge is power. So why don't I use this knowledge to get the country moving forward? I'm not the one who talked about the compliance 5149. And when I ask in Parliament, I'm asking in my role as a member of Parliament where there is oversight. And yes, you need parliamentarians who research, who have knowledge, so that they're facts. So what is wrong with that? I separate issues. So let us separate issues. In the aspect of compliance, he must comply. Because that's what the government requires him to do. Government needs money. There was 4 million litres which went missing the other day in Chisumbanje. Why didn't the Herald talk about that? It was taken out of this country. It was exported to another country. Then we had a problem. There was a bit of a panic. No wonder why government then switched over to get ethanol from Think Triangle. Did you not understand that? Why suddenly do they give a company mandatory monopoly? But yet they now go to another company that produces ethanol to then supply ethanol. It's because the country was going to be brought to a halt because 4 million was exported. So you cannot have such a strategic commodity controlled by an individual, because he can easily wake up one day and say, I'm not going to give you fuel. So this is why we're pushing for government to be involved. And unfortunately, it's taking longer than expected. And Billy claims to own the entire government at the end of the day. No wonder why the ministers are dilly-dallying at the end of the day. But we will continuously ask them. Because it is important that the thing fiscus, it does get money so that Zim asset does take off at the end of the day. Yes, it was shareholding. The Wanget transaction was about board. It was based on commission on the tonnage that he would mine. On the tonnage that he would mine. And I would get a commission at the end of the day. On Unki, I refused for a commission. I then said I needed a shareholding. I was a 10% shareholder. And all these transactions happened in front of people of repute. And when I'm sitting with national leaders and we agree, I consider the deal signed and sealed. But yes, we have a problem again with politicians who are hungry, who then circumvent you so that they can go through. It's also normal business practice. Whether it's normal business practice, I don't know. But in Zimbabwe, we would call it normal business practice, where you take somebody to a leader, but the next thing that leader is circumventing you is dealing with that. So there was an exchange of many brown envelopes, and the time will come when we shall name who received the envelope and who did not. This was my sweat. I worked for it. And I told him that, yes, you might not pay me, but none of your business will think prosper, because my spirit and the God I pray will not allow you to prosper. And that's all I say to him. Thereafter, I've never spoken to him. And you can see the thing problems in his enterprises today, because he's not a genuine businessman. He's not honest. He is a crook. He is a crook. And His Excellency is on record in saying that, can we vet every businessman that comes into the country? We seem to take crooks to think him, who destroy the economy and the people at the end of the day. So I think we must be able to think separate issues by all means in whatever is happening. ENRC has taken over a CAMIC at the end of the day. It was taken over CAMIC. They've taken Toldo. I can give you information. You can Google it. It's there, so that you're able to also, deal from an informed position, so that it more or less helps us moving forward. ENRC acquisition of Central African Mining Exploration in December 2009. NRC acquired 95.40% of the shares of the Central African Mining Corporation. And that included Zimbabwe. And Billy, what is his percentage at the end of the day in that? So I think this information is up for you to look at it and try and investigate and so forth. I'm aware of the shift. I'm aware of the position I've taken as a legislator at the end of the day. I was elected by the people to stand for the people. I'll never shy away from telling the truth. That is the reason why when I call for ministers to account equally, I must also respond. That's why I made to also respond. I have got to be consistent. I cannot call for ministers to account when I'm not also able to also account. So I've come to you as honest as I am to also meet you, to also account. So I equally hope that those who are also said to be involved will also call for a press conference and also account for a thing wealth, which is something that we must not mince our words about, and we must continue. Bezo Nyabadza has benefited with the Mutare, a house in Mutare. Can you call him where he got that thing house from? His companies are not doing well. Billy Rottenberg bought a house for him. No wonder why he's become a spokesperson for Billy. No wonder why when you talk about green fuel, it's Bezo Nyabadza. You must tell him that the true shareholder in this business says that Billy bought you a house when you requested Temba Mliswa to talk to Billy about that. And the house has been bought, it's in Mutare. Can you show the world where you got the money from? So let's not have Uncle Toms talking what they, I come before you because I have no skeletons in my wardrobe. If I don't come here, then there would be so much speculation. I'm subject to being investigated, to being asked and so forth. Issues of extortion. Listen, he has a right to go and report to the central police station that I did extort to him. And investigations must happen. I'm not new to investigations. I'm sure you're all aware of that. So why then talk about it in the press? If it's of national interest, report the matter to the police station and let the law take its course. Equally, I'm also saying what happened to the total concession that was given to you for you to think mine. If you did, he must answer. If he did not answer, then I also go to the police station and also put a report that there was a total concession given to Billy Rottenberg, and he speculated on it, and it was fraud, and the money never came into the country. Where did it go? We must know. There must be an investigation into the Chisumbanje plant. 1 minute is 600 million. The next minute is 400 million. The entire Zimplats, Rolls-Royce equipment, never cost that much. Ladies and gentlemen, can you honestly compare Chisumbanje to Zimplats? Come on, who are they trying to bluff? The days of bluffing honorable members of parliament who had no information are long gone. We have a mandate to save this nation. We have a mandate to take this nation out of the hole that it's in. And doing so requires us to be pretty clear. Finally, I'll challenge the thing Herald. I'm not one who likes to sue. If I wanted to sue new newspapers, I'm sure I would be thinking rich by now. But I will also give guidance to the Herald. The Herald must prove that the letter shows that Mliswa drew after he approached Mr. Rottenberg seeking urgent financial help to cover another deal. But assistance was premised on the cession of all demands on Billy Rottenberg. The Herald must prove the cash I was giving. Equally, they've also produced information of the letters. So where is the cash that I was saying given? I think the journalists must report responsibly with facts, and that small envelope that you're giving is not worth it at the end of the day. The corruption in the media is also getting out of hand. And this article is nothing but a few people who have been paid. How can you call a scandal? Yes, these are big deals. No wonder why it's 165 million. It is the value of the transaction. And I'm not one who is used. So I wonder, how can it be a scandal? I told you the role that Mtasa played. In us wanting to go to Chisumbanje, he is a leader in Manicaland, it's no secret. Investment. I had applied for this, I didn't have the money. And then incorporated Billy. Billy was interested in Ada Sisi. And I told him, Ada Sisi is too small. Why don't you go to Chisumbanje? So the relationship in Mtasa is him being a senior government leader and the leader of Manicaland to say, we are coming to invest. Sawanu was him being a board chairperson of Wange. Nyabadza was the board chairperson of Ada. So when you are dealing with the Ada transaction and you have access to the board chairman, you go and tell him so that he understands your vision. There is nothing sinister about that at all. And since 2009, I have not demanded any money from him at all. And for him to say extortion, we never met to then deal with this matter out of court. But I've said, listen, it's now in the hands of the thing, Lord. But what I know that his businesses will not prosper because he's not honest. Gentlemen and ladies, let us understand who Billy Rottenberg is. And let's not be excited by the small brown envelopes that we think get to just pay your thing rent in a month and get you fuel to get home. I think if we are to really help this country, let's deal with serious issues. Let the headline read, Rottenberg fails to justify why he could not mine. Because that's a country resource worth billions. That concession, 30% of Anglo-American, is said to be worth 4 billion. That is the issue that we must talk about. So I think I'd like to guide Takunda Maudu that, listen, I think it's important that we deal with facts and we deal with issues that, Billy has also got into parliament. He's already corrupted some members of parliament. You were there when that whole committee was held on indigenization. There were members of parliament paid to heckle the chairman, even asking the chairman to stand up. Can't you see that? But some of us are not moved by that. There were no noise because members of parliament had been paid to say what they needed to say. There are members of parliament who are in Billy's constituency who have approached me that can we mediate between you and Billy? I've said no. Can he give you $1 million? I said no. $1 million is not 165 million. But it's either he gives it to me or it doesn't. By now, in business, at the end of the day, when money is not coming through, you write it off. I wrote it off. I wrote it off. If it came to me today, I would probably donate it to some charitable organization. Because I've realized the money is also dirty, and I don't want to be associated with dirty money. So I wrote that off, and I have no interest in it. But I suppose he is guilty at the end of the day. You know, when you don't do good to somebody, you feel the thing pressure. So I think if he's guilty, he must really say he's guilty. So I really don't have time for I think Billy, with his reputation that he has, I think time will certainly catch up. I think you can bribe a few people, but you cannot bribe the whole country. You cannot bribe the whole country. You can just bribe a few, but you cannot bribe the whole country. You can lie to a few, but you cannot lie to the whole country. And I think time is catching up with him now. I thank you. Can I get questions from the...
Yeah, my name is Kolam Masmafo. Just two things. You said you want facts, and you also made a serious accusation on us, the journalists, that there was ground envelope. I think it will be fair in future that you present such facts, instead of just attacking us that for that story to come out, there was corruption.
Okay, I'll respond to you.
Just my second one. And also, I don't know, all of a sudden, Billy Rottenberg is bad because he's white, yet he was your business partner. I don't know, can you just try to play for that?
Have you never married a wife, then you discover she's unfaithful? A wife married a husband and discovers he's unfaithful. That is life. The key is to also say they're unfaithful. So on the aspect of it's called quid pro quo. I have challenged the Herald to produce a statement, me receiving money. Failure to which I then said the journalist was being bribed. Because you cannot talk about money without producing that. So it's quid pro quo. And I challenged them. That's why I said so. Failure to which the journalist had other motives other than building. You cannot write this rubbish, which, I mean, this is rubbish. Anybody reading it who thinks, but money exchanges hands. Even in the media it does. It's not only the politicians who are corrupt. The media equally is. And these are traits of a corrupt journalist. I challenge the journalist to also do the same tomorrow and show the country that Mliswa was paid so much and that's why he withdrew, because it was a desperate situation. That's fair. You wrote it, show the evidence. You can't write and have no evidence. I feel sorry for journalists. If I had to take this legally, this guy would never survive in his whole life. But I've always said I feel sorry for you because you would not even afford a thing lawyer. So why would I? You are my brother.
Maybe as a follow-up to this question, at what point did it occur to you that Billy was corrupt?
That's a good question.
Was he only starting to speak about it now in response to that?
No, you are wrong. Read the Financial Gazette. This is not new. That's why I'm saying there are corrupt tendencies. Go and get the thing, Financial Gazette, and I'll give you when it was written. I spoke about this in the Financial Gazette. There is absolutely nothing new here.
At what point did you discover?
When I discovered when he had sold the Unkiko concession. And that's when I went to him and I opted out. I had the choice to either be to remain in the shareholding, but But I then opted out. But they said, how can you remain in the shareholding when the shares have been bought? So the money that you got, can you give me my money? Is there anything wrong with that? And that's when I discovered that he was not honest. And what I've done is to alert the country and the people that you're dealing with a white criminal. He's a crook. And it is my responsibility as a citizen who loves this country, as a legislator, to say, be careful of this man. Look at his track record. There are no sour grapes in this. I've lived on with my life. But equally, I also want to warn my people against such a man.
There's a follow-up. Like you said, he's a responsible MP and legislator. Why are you not reporting this fraud to the police? It's clear he's a crook, he's a criminal. Have you at any point tried to alert the police?
No, what I'm doing on Wednesday, I'm asking the Minister of Affairs, the Minister of Mines. He's a very honest Minister of Mines, I must say, and I'm sure you'll get to the bottom of it when he dissolved the ZMTC boards, which people thought were untouchable. But I actually have faith in the Minister of Mines that if I bring it up on Wednesday question time, he will take action.
Okay, I just wanted to find your position where you stand as an OPF official as well as an MP. With regards the respect of the media, the so-called exiled media, SW Radio Africa, Studio 7, Radio of the People, and so forth. Because these issues you're talking about against BD, they've been reported by the so-called pirate radios since 2003. And as ZANU-PF, we understand that you went all out actually to attack those pirate radio stations, the so-called pirate radio stations. Why did you not stand up against your colleagues in ZANU-PF and said, no, this is the media which is reporting factually, and only to come now?
I've never had problems with the media. In fact, the Herald has become worse than and the radio. I think actually you see, I think as long as the media reports honestly and from a credibility point of view, it will gain the thing respect it deserves. And it takes time. But stay in the game. You must keep playing. And with time, no wonder why we called for a press conference. No wonder why I was not comfortable with giving an exclusive interview to the Herald. Why is it that I called for a press conference? I could have equally written and said, Mliswa responds. But it's now up to those who write the truth, and your think papers. No wonder why people today are buying 3-4 papers. Long back it would just be the Herald. But then why?
So you are saying the Herald is not saying the truth, and that's what the perception was with other media players, that the Herald could be lying in some ways, maybe covering up for some ministers and government officials. But as a ZANU-PF official, my question is, why were you not coming out in the open attacking the Herald?
Can I be honest with you? ZANU-PF, there's no secret that there are factions in the party. And I'm sure the Minister of Information belongs to a certain faction. So you also attack another faction. And I say this boldly without even anything. If you also trace his thing record, he's also been implicated in factions before. It's not a secret. So that is very clear, and I will not mince my words on that. But don't use the state media to attack people appointed by the president at the end of the day. It is not good. It must stop at some point. Yesterday it was Mtasa, now it's Mliswa. Next thing it will be His Excellency.
To which faction do you belong?
I belong to the leadership that came out of the last Congress held. And I look forward to working with the leadership that will also come out of the Congress that we're going to have.
Okay, I need some clarity, you said the 165 million was the net value of the transaction. Maybe I'm missing the point. Does it mean you were supposed to be given 165 million out of the facilitation, or?
It's not. Let's not use the word facilitation. It is shareholding. I did not go for facilitation. My letters, legal letters, talk about shareholding, but I opted out of the business. In opting out of the business, what is the value of the company? Chisumba Nje said it was 600 million. So what is 10% of 600 million? So that's how I reached those figures. Yes.
Maybe out of interest, are you at liberty to disclose some other ministers whom you take billing to in order to have those dues authorized, and did they only provide the service as government officials, or they were also charged consultation fees?
No, you've got to understand, when I operate as a businessman, I expect three things from my transaction when I was a businessman. First of all, there is the aspect of an allowance I get. There's shareholding, and there's a success fee. So I've not even touched the thing success fee. This is nothing compared to the success fee. So there is the success fee on the project at the end of the day. So those are the three stages which any businessman would think pursue. The allowance is for you running around, petrol, phone calls, and so forth. And yes, to begin with, he used to also pay me well. But I remember meeting a certain Indian who said to me, "Are you dealing with Billy?" I said, "Yes." He says, when you're dealing with Billy, you must do one thing: show him the door, but don't open the door for him until he pays. Just show him the door, but don't open the door for him until he pays. And I remember that Indian vividly. So basically, like I say, I've never known of a scandal where one is entitled to what they deserve, and when you call for it, and like I've told you, I've written it off. February 2011, we were supposed to meet to sit down. He didn't come. He sent, he had asked Minister Mtasa, and he told me, "Can you withdraw, and can you also write a letter?" And I said, "I've written a letter." He says, "No, can you also write a letter which clearly shows?" And I said to the lawyer, "Okay, draft the letter, now sign the letter," because it was in very good faith. But they never happened, and I don't see it happening anyway. So I'm surprised that, it's still being discussed and so forth. And I said to you earlier on, let us separate the issues: the issue of him complying and the issue of the business transaction. If we're able to separate those two, then this article would not have been out. He must comply, and I'm hoping that in Parliament on Wednesday, the question will also be asked: when is he going to think comply? Yes.
Your company Sortlex was or a debt written off by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe amounting to 12-point-something million. Would you want to tell us what happened? How did it come to be written off?
First of all, we never got $12-point-something million. I wouldn't be sitting here with you. And I would like somebody to prove to me that the Reserve Bank gave us 12.5 million.
How much did you get?
We were supposed to get the equivalent of that in Zim dollars when the inflation was up, and it was used to buy tobacco. So it would be managed from that point, that here is a facility for you to buy tobacco, and then we'd be able to pay the money back in Zim dollars. But we also had a clause in the agreement that we also can pay the money in Zim dollars, and we are sticking to paying it in Zim.
You want to pay it in Zim dollars?
And that is what is there.
How much did you get in all? You didn't get the 12.5 million.
No, we
How
didn't.
much did you get? How much did you get?
Inflation at that point in time, I think it was Zim dollars. probably equivalent to 5 million, 5.8.
5 million, 5.8.
Yes. But you then export the tobacco. Failure to export the tobacco, you pay back in Zim.
So you failed to export the tobacco?
Yes, so we'll pay back in Zim. If you want me to finish you with a copy of the agreement, I will.
I have a copy of that.
Yes, there is a clause which does say that. So I am exercising that clause in the agreement.
So how was it written off? How did you get it written off by the Reserve Bank?
It was never written off. I think I've just told you. It was never written off. As a company, we still owe money to CBZ, who did borrow us money. As a company, we're also owed money by farmers, which is more than what we owe.
So you're paying $10 including interest?
Is CBZ will pay in US because we took the money in US. But Reserve Bank, there is a clause. If CBZ also had a clause for us to pay in US in Zim dollars, we would think also stick to that clause.
How much do you owe CBZ?
Off on top of my head, I would not. But we owe money to think CBZ. Yes.
But Mr. Mliswa, taking from what you're saying now, it appears that the way you're referring to these transactions, owing in Zim dollar and wanting to pay in Zim dollars and so forth, you seem to believe that you are also untouchable, and you believe that these people are untouchable and financiers of ZANU-PF, and they have to be accountable. How do you balance the two?
But I then answered you, how can I be untouchable when I have an agreement with RBZ? Why don't I finish with the agreement? Because it's unfair to say to you, when I'm responding to you, even on matters on my company, where I'm saying to you, there is a clause. You sign an agreement. Failure to export on time, you pay back in Zim dollars. So how does that make me untouchable? I'm not the one who controls the currency in this country. And the thing is, Zim dollar will come back, I don't know when. So I don't know, my brother, where you'd say I'm quite untouchable when I'm responding to you as it is. Yes.
Maybe one more question. Were your deals with Billy, was there any paperwork on your deals with Billy? Was considering the amounts involved, certainly this cannot be a verbal agreement. Were there any paperwork?
Listen, I think I told you when I started that most of the transactions I get involved in, I'm a man who believes in God, who believes in His word. And Billy, we were very clear. I am a politician at the end of the day. I'm on the sanctions list. And we agreed that there would be no mention of me anyway because of that. Yes, it sounds, but then I'll then prove to you that I also used to think draw down as a director at that company. So is there evidence that I used to think draw down? And is there evidence that 30-ton trucks used to go to my farm and leave tires? Yes.
So it was a verbal agreement?
It was.
Temba, you mentioned the Minister of Information is using the state media to attack you. Why you?
No, I did not say. Can I be honest with you? I'm no longer Temba Mliswa as an honorable member of parliament. I'm a provincial chairman, and there's an upcoming Congress. And probably I don't toe lines of factions, and I don't toe a line of a faction. I don't know of any faction. I know of a leadership that is elected a Congress that I work with. So in the thick of things, yes. It's no secret that the Minister of Information was once said to belong to the Mnangagwa faction. It's not a secret. He was involved in that Chocholocho issue. If you want, you can actually go and research on it. Why do you want to use me to tell you when you know it? Write the things you know which are there already.
one confirmation. Who okay is not use or abuse, if you like, of the military media?
Yes, he was working with Mr. Mnangagwa. Mr. Mnangagwa was working with Billy and John Brindenkamp at the time. If you kind of Google that, all the information is there. I mean, I'm surprised that no one ever dared to write about what Billy. Are you telling me that he's also passed the brown envelope in all the media houses? Surely one should be able to report correctly about Billy, who he is.
No, but I think, as I said before, that there are certain media houses which have reported, and they've actually been said to be enemies of the state. That's why I was asking that these media houses, they have reported, and where were you by that time, so that you would actually support the media, because you knew that this person was a thief.
First of all, I was not a member of parliament. You should ask me now. I've given you my support. I had no authority whatsoever, but being a legislator, we are open to the media reporting the truth and so forth. And any media that doesn't report the truth, whether it's state media, we will say it's not reporting the thing truth.
So you've literally dragged almost everyone into this and that scandal. Don't you think that you are rather doing too much and aren't you fearing for your life?
No, I've never feared for my thing life. I think I'm sure I'm the last person to fear for my life. Do you know how many phone calls I got for me not to think I'd trace you? But what is what is it to think hide? If I'm in a legislator and I talk about us driving the anti-corruption drive, I must be in the forefront of practicing that too. I cannot be in parliament and say, guys, can you account? Then I'm not able to account. It's a bit inconsistent. Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. I thank you.
This is Nehanda Radio, giving you the best online entertainment and updated news and information from within Zimbabwe. Nehanda Radio, entertainment, news and information coming straight out of Zimbabwe.